Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Brother Game HD here today. In today's video, Splitgate Arena Reloaded has pretty much had me hooked for the past 8 to 9 days. Respectfully, I'm not gonna lie. I have not put this game down. I've probably may put 15 so hours into this game already, and it's pretty fucking crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Pardon my language there, but Splitgate Arena Reloaded feels like the game that we should have had with Splitgate 2. And to see that 1047 Games looked at the writing on the wall and pretty much said, you know what, guys? Splitgate 2 is not the game that we promised it was going to be. We're going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to figure something out to bring back the player base that fell in love with Splitgate in the first place, right? And that's what they did. And here we are with Arena Reloaded with brand new maps, brand new guns, and future events and maps coming down the pipeline for the next 3 months is going to be an interesting thing. I'm not going to lie, and I'm excited for the future of Splitgate going forward. And there are so many games out there within the industry that, bide for our time. People play Call of Duty because of the crazy gunplay. People play Battlefield because of the team play. People play Halo because of the power-ups. But Splitgate, it has the portals. That's something that pretty much separates itself from games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Halo, for instance. And it's really hard to be, original within the video game industry, within any genre for that matter. It is a very hard thing to separate yourself from the pack, separate yourself from the competition that we have here within modern gaming. And to see that Splitgate 2 copied that hero style shooter bullshit with Splitgate 2, and they realized that they messed up and brought a Splitgate Arena Reloaded has pretty much proven to me and many others within the Splitgate community that a game can change. If a community is passionate enough about the game, enough as it is, and the devs see that, communication, that feedback, that type of energy coming from the community, the developers will listen. The developers will understand that, you know what? Our vision was not the right one. And that's a good thing. It's always good to admit, that you were wrong, that what you thought was good for the game turned out to be a bad decision. And Splitgate and 1047 Games, seeing that very early on with Splitgate 2, made them change their way on how they wanted to approach this game, how they wanted to revamp this game and bring the game to the community that it, flourished, that it created. And it's a hard thing to see, it's a hard thing to see when the numbers are dropping and bleeding and you don't want to see a game die out. And that the fact that 1047 Games saw the writing on the wall, they understood. Because look, at the end of the day, 1047 Games, they don't have anybody backing them up. They're on their own out here. Sorry. They're on their own out here. They're an indie dev studio relying on the community, relying on the players that come and play this game every single day, right? Or, whenever you have the time to play this game. They're relying on those players to come back and play the game. And I'm going to throw Call of Duty out there, for instance. Call of Duty has been out for many years, right? It's been out for 2 decades now. And look where the game is at now. It's basically on the shitter right now. It's shitting players left and right to the point of where people are leaving the franchise. People are going and playing other games like Battlefield 6, Splitgate Arena Reloaded, other games in general. And why are people leaving Call of Duty? It's because they refuse to listen to the community that made them what they are today. They refuse to change the game of what it is. They refuse to change the game in general and address the issues that people have had with the game for years. And the fact that, seeing a smaller studio like 1047 Games, understanding the feedback, understanding the communication, and, running with it, shows that indie developers, indie games, and indie studios as a whole, in my opinion, are the future of modern gaming. It may be, a hot take in some way, but that's how I see it. These smaller developers, these smaller studios, these smaller teams deserve the recognition that they deserve, and nobody ever bats an eye towards these guys because it's like, look, they're a small team of, of like 200-300 people. The game's gonna die out in a week. The game's gonna die out in a couple months. Who gives a shit? Boo-hoo, right? But you gotta remember, Halo started out like that. Call of Duty started out like that. So many games that had maybe, 100, 200 developers back then have now pretty much grew to like 4,000, 2,000, 3,000 developers working on one game alone. And back then, the technology wasn't advanced as it is now. But now that a small game like Splitgate Arena Reloaded is out here on the market, fighting for your time, fighting for your money, and pretty much both of those things together, at the end of the day, I always ask myself, I'm always telling myself, what do I want to play today? Do I want to play a single player game? Do I want to play Battlefield 6? Do I want to play Splitgate Arena Reloaded? And that's a good thing. And why am I listing that off? Because look, I'm branching out to different games. I'm branching out to, finding other games that, that I'll give my time to, right? There's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day. But there are so many video games out there that don't get the recognition that they deserve, that don't get the attention that I believe that they properly deserve in general, because there are so many good games out there. There are so many games out there that are absolute shit. And don't get me wrong, I've played some really shitty games. I'm not gonna lie. And the way that the gaming market is going right now, with just gaming in general, it's an interesting time to see that it's time to wake up. It's time for these juggernaut studios to realize that they're not going to be top dogs anymore. They're not going to be the top games that people are literally going to be like they once were. And sure, Splitgate is a small game. It's going to have its niche. It's going to have its players. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm always looking at it like this. Do I want to support a studio that only gives a shit about profits and numbers? Or do I want to support a studio that gives a shit about the community, that puts the community first, that puts its game first, and worries about numbers and impressing shareholders second? And I'll always support the small guys. I'll always support the small dogs, because nobody really bats an eye towards these smaller studios, because it's like I said, there are so many games releasing every year, every day, every month, and every week, to the point of where games like Splitgate Arena Reloaded will get lost in that shuffle. But as long as there are people out there that are passionate about Splitgate and 1047 Games project here, this game isn't going to die. This game is going to, have a long, healthy lifespan, as long as the player base cares about the game and cares about the product that 1047 Games is putting out. And it's been a very strong start ever since the relaunch. I'm not going to lie. It's like I told you, I've pretty much been playing this game like for 8 days, not in a row, like, not like 8 hours a day, 8 hours, 8 days. No, not shit like that. But me like 2, 3 hours a day, give or take. Even that's still a lot, but this game is fun. The game has an addictive play. How do I say it? An addictive gameplay style. And the Portals is something, like I said earlier in this video, that pretty much separates it from something like Battlefield's team play, Call of Duty's gunplay, or even Halo's, what I said earlier, power up system. And that's something that we really do not see within modern gaming, because like I said, at the end of the day, modern gaming, when it comes to the triple A games, they're always chasing the profits, they're always chasing the margins, and they're always trying to find ways to, fatten the pockets of their investors. But 1047 Games, they're a lone wolf out here. They're their own team, they're their own pack. At the end of the day, if the game flops, they flop. If the game underperforms, everybody's unemployed. And that's a risk that 1047 Games is doing every single day. Because, like I said, they don't have a publisher backing them up. They are their own publisher. They're their own team. They're their own underdogs. And I just want to give this game some light, give it the praise that it deserves, because there are so many games out there that fight for our attention, that fight for our time. And if you can at least give Splitgate Arena Reloaded a try, if you're a newcomer into the game, the portals might be intimidating, but once you get used to it, it is a good addictive gameplay. Or if you're somebody who pretty much left Splitgate like me and came back to the game and see a much better product overall because they chose to listen to their community, that is something that the industry needs right now. A game, not like something that, how can I say it? When I say like this is something the industry needs right now, it's like, in other words, what I'm trying to say is that, how can I say it? There has to be more games out here that always put the player base first, the community first. But it's not like that with modern game, especially with corporate greed and money and investors and other bullshit, that goes into the video game industry. But I see a bright future for Splitgate Arena Reloaded, even though that's a mouthful. But this relaunch, it's been successful. And I'm ready to see what the future of Splitgate Arena Reloaded holds. I want to see what's coming up in February, March, even April to next year. But it's been your boy Brotherhood Gaming Nation, everybody. And if you are new to the channel, please don't subscribe, like, hit the bell notifications, and I'll see you out there in the arena. Peace out and goodbye, everybody.